Hey, what is up, all my lonely watchers out there? As you can tell by my streams as of late, I have been enjoying Nuzlocking the Yokai Watch games. This is just such a unique challenge that's made me approach the games in ways I never did before. Now, I did make a video on my Psychic Spectres Nuzlocke, which you can check out in the description, and it was awesome. It was a struggle, and it took a couple of attempts, but beating Dame Dead Time was the best feeling in the world. This gave me the extreme confidence boost, which made me want to Nuzlocke the king of the Yokai Watch franchise, Yokai Watch 3. Now, 3 isn't as heavily Nuzlocked as 2, so I figured it would be interesting with its unique mechanics while still being fun. Looking at you, Yokai Watch 4, and with how much longer 3 is, this would be a true test of my patience and concentration. Hi, I'm Jamie, aka LonelyFubuki, and this is the tale of my attempt at a Yokai Watch 3 Nuzlocke. The rules for Yokai Watch Nuzlocks can vary, and 3 adds a lot of elements that may come into question. So here's the rule set I decided to go with for my run. I'm not saying this is the definitive rule set. Many people can come up with many different types of rules with how subjective Yokai Watch Nuzlocks are, but this is what I did. 1. If a yokai dies, their medal must be dropped if possible, and they cannot be used for the rest of the run. 2. Every yokai must be nicknamed by me or chat. 3. I may not obtain any duplicate yokai. 4. I may only befriend the first yokai to ask me in a given area. An area, in this sense, is defined as being loaded with a new name, disregarding different floors. For example, Springdale Elementary would be a different area from Uptown Springdale, but each of the elementary school's floors would be one area collectively. Dungeons such as the Scrapyard and the Sunset Mall would count differently as areas as opposed to their normal counterparts if they have one. 5. Rule number 4 has the exception of any auto-befriends or yokai required for story progression. I cannot do any non-key quests that either give me a yokai as a reward or require me to obtain one to continue the quest. Any other side quests are fair game. 6. No passwords, QR codes, street pass, trading, yokai circle rewards, blaster's tea, or crankakai, including the Oni Crank and Dream Wheel, as well as any other in-game collaboration with other players. Since the Oni Crank is forced in some instances, I may keep any items that it gives to me, but I may not keep any yokai that it gives to me. 7. I cannot use any methods outside of a yokai's abilities to make a yokai befriend me. This means feeding a yokai their favorite food is prohibited, but ultimates such as Loving Slap and Befriending Wisps are allowed. 8. The Yokai Blaster is allowed with restrictions. While I can always use the damage output function of the blaster, I can only use the friend mode when I'm trying to befriend a yokai required for story progression. 9. Evolutions, as voted by chat, are allowed as long as they are not via fusion. 10. Fusion of both yokai and items is prohibited unless we are forced to by the story. 11. Sorcery is prohibited. 12. Originion is allowed. 13. Soft resetting for a better outcome is prohibited. 14. If my team is fully wiped under any circumstances, the run is dead and I must restart. And finally, to spice things up, I decided to add a Rule 15, the Yamada Clause. If we encounter a Cyborg Y, we may attempt to befriend him and keep him, even if we have already made a befriend in the area. This rule is meant to mimic the Shining Claws of Pokemon Nuzlocks. And with all that out of the way, I hope our rules are clear to everybody. So, let's get to the Nuz. We start off by playing the amazing intro, muted of course so we don't get copyright claimed, before hopping straight into the game. After the best joke in video game history, we start with an eating minigame, which actually isn't as creepy as Yokai Watch 2. Now that our bellies are full, Dad decides that this is the best point to break the news.
We're moving to BBQ!
It doesn't take long after moving, though, to get caught up in yokai shenanigans. Cue the second best joke in video game history. The Yokai Watch being region locked never ceases to make me chuckle. Like, what? It's just so stupid. It works so well. Whisper brings us a new region-free watch at the cost of trading all of our old medals away. And why, Whisper? Why would you do this to us? After punishing Whisper, which he rightly deserves, we make our first befriend of the run, Skidmark. I've named Jabonyon Skidmark in every Nuzlocke leading up to this, and this was no exception. He died in the previous 2 Nuzlockes, and I was destined to keep him alive this time. Although, we'll see how it goes. We won the first fight before being thrown to Haley Ann, the best Yokai Watch character ever, destined to get her hands on the new Sailor Cuties figure. After missing out, she decided to get the UFO Watch instead, and listens to the mysterious voice by taking it to a back alley, where we summon our first befriend on Haley's side, USApyon. I name him Spark after the amazing artist who made the art for the first part's thumbnail. You can check them out via the link in the description. The first fight goes well, and we're immediately booted back to BBQ. We're having a hard time communicating with the locals, but not Dad, surely enough. But Dad can't be that talented, it must be the work of a yokai, and sure enough it was. Linguist goes down with ease, and we name him Duolingo. We get berated by some bozos at the school cafeteria, which is apparently open during the summer in BBQ, and also allows these random adults to walk in, so I don't know what's going on here. I live in BBQ, and I swear it's not like this. Outside the school, 2 kids are fighting due to the power of a yokai, who is then rightfully clobbered. After a long day, it's time to head home, where BBQville is making Dad crave meat. But where's the harm in that, right? Got no time to answer that question because we gotta check in with Haley again, where we auto-befriend Treater and name him Musk, because I am very unoriginal. For the Sparkopolis encounter, we pick up a Snitchin and name him Zoomer, to parody his similarities to Tattletale, and to play off of Tattletale's nickname in the past Nuzlocks, Boomer. After only a couple of fights though, he dies! Our first death of the run! So early too! I guess he'll just never get to carry on Tattletale's legacy. Rest in peace, Zoomer. After battling on and hearing more of USApyon's sob story, it's time to pass the torch to BBQ and get some ice cream. Not only that, but we get to use the Dream Wheel once, before meeting up with some kids who introduce us to Buck, who's being just an annoying little turd for no reason at this point in the story. We better grab a healer before we continue though. Searching high and low in Southmond, beating up as many Intunes as possible until one joins us. My friend and moderator Luna jokes that they are just like us for real, so I decide to name them J and L. As we clear out the key quests, J and L gets one-shotted in the Salty Bacon quest, and just come on! We already have a death on each side, and one of them is our only healer for a while. We get a Salty Bacon in return and call him Garbo, although I have a feeling this isn't the last time that he screws us over. We do some grinding to befriend a Who-Me and name him Hootie. They have an A-rank evolution later on, so they may be integral to this run. We get told about the mystery of the large clanking noises all over town by Buck's friends, but cannot do anything without switching to Haley first. We do a little more grinding and stop there. How could we have a death on each side already? Things are not looking very good, but I'll keep my chin up regardless. We immediately spring for another encounter, this time in Breezy Hills. We get a Humpty Jumpty and name them Hummus. They'll be a good tank in the short term. We head through Springdale Underground to try and find Dr. Hewley at Fortune Hospital and get another encounter. A why not we name Spaghetti. On the way to the Gorpon Museum, Dilemma joins our team in the downtown, and we name him Putin after his first Nuzlocke name. And at this point, I'm ready to make a detour and pick up our first healer, Sandmat in Mount Wildwood. Mr. Idgaff, welcome to the team. And with him, we finally have a full team of 6. Let's go. I'm a little more confident on Haley's side at this point. Going to the museum enables us to meet Diana Gately and a Poofessor who can help us build a rocket with the help of Biddy Rocket Weekly. Hopefully showing this to Dr. Hewley will inspire him. First of all though, this rocket requires the help of 4 yokai. 4 specific yokai at that. And Poofessor is one of them, so we only have 4 more to find. One of them is an auto-befriend Blazion outside the museum, which we named Knuckles. He immediately replaces Putin. Our next order of business is to help Lazaria by bringing her some ice cream. While there, we happen to get a Steppa in the Daytime Sunset Mall and name him Red Eye after his name in the 2 Nuzlocke. Next up, Ferdinand tasks us with beating up some snippety crickets, and we oblige for some reason. When we meet him at home, he gives Haley a completely new hairdo, which looks kinda good, but I'll admit, Haley's better with the short hair, which it luckily fades back to as soon as she leaves the apartment. Before the final task, though, it might be a good idea to go do the bike quest, as biking around will be crucial for this run not taking forever. Fresh lime bike in hand, we lend a hand to Static King by beating up some numbskulls. And why oh why is this game just beating up innocent creatures for favors? On our way to Mount Wildwood's summit, we pick up a Bumblejack and name them Wispy after Wispy Woods. Finally atop the summit, it's time to build the rocket with the most riveting minigame you've ever seen. Dr. Hewley is deeply inspired by this. Too bad he can't see USApyon. Or can he? With that chapter done, I switch back to Nate. While doing some investigating, we befriend a Squeaky named Wheezy in the warehouse. After I felt like we grinded enough, it was time to head to the scrapyard and hopefully pick up another encounter before we beat Junkernaut. Which we did, a put a sock in it named Kermit.
Finish him off! Finish him off! Let's go! First boss down!
As expected, our team absolutely slayed Junkernaut. And Buck can see yokai? I guess we'll learn more about that tomorrow. After doing some more investigating, we get introduced to the first watch upgrade of the run, with one of the best minigames in the whole series being introduced as a result. Now that we have a D-rank watch and a new area, Eastpine, we can hunt for the only option at this point for a restoration attribute yokai, the Nosers. It takes a while, so I take a break to sleep and enter our first zombie night.
Excuse me.
Which luckily is not as scary as Terror Time is. To investigate further though, we need one of Haley's fancy that's, so we switch on over. USApyon pushes us to use the Crankakai, which we can't avoid, so I oblige. I get excited by the gold capsule before it spits out a hidden hint instead. I thought it might be a Count Cavity. It was not. Now we're off to Sparkopolis to get the first thing we need to be a good detective, the Fit. Unfortunately, a weekly allowance won't cut it. Walking out of anime chum in our sorrows, we get warped to the first Terror Time of this run. Now, similar to 1, losing Terror Time puts you in a near impossible Gargaros fight. So if we're gonna survive this, we'll need to be extra vigilant. We very carefully grab the key before sprinting to the exit, in which Mr. Goodside is on the other side. He encourages us to go get our watch upgraded, but before he can do so, he asks us to check on the landlord. After beating up the Waper that's inspiriting him, they join our team, and we name them Me. After he upgrades our watch, we immediately put Me on the team in place of Hummus. Mr. Goodsight encourages us to investigate strange happenings in Sparkopolis, which is now covered by strange daydreams and USApyon's family for some reason. Between the multiple weird side missions, we fail to get an encounter for this area, but it matters not, as it's time for Sailor Psych to kick Hoaxy Coaxy's butt. Pinning his fantasies made him a piece of cake, and we made Hoaxy Coaxy turn into a dream themselves. Mwahaha! Mr. Goodsight recognizes our effort by giving us a new headquarters for our detective agency. I guess that's as good a place as ever to stop for the day, eh? Before investigating the zombies with Nate, we continued to hunt for the No-Sirs, which we befriended around 30 minutes in. Bye-bye, Wheezy. The Stooges are in town. We then take some time to grind up our new healer a little before telling Buck about the zombies. As tonight is the night we investigate the Phantom Mart. Better get some rest. Nate'll have a hard time going out at night though without Baku's medal. Luckily, Hydevac comes in clutch with a friend of his to take our place during the night. Kitty Lumbus. Mystic, the lovely maker of my avatar that you should subscribe to, named him Navy. Alright, off to Phantom Mart. We get tricked by what we think is the BBQ bunny to do his bidding before having to escape the wrath of the super manager in the shopping cart, which is honestly one of the funniest things I've seen in Yokai Watch. Making our way to the meat freezer, we get ambushed by the super manager and are forced into a fight.
Yo, perfect! We can beat the meat!
We annihilate him, and he promises to leave us alone if we keep the zombies inhabiting the supermarket a secret, which finishes the chapter. Next, we have to solve some problems at the circus, giving us 5 key quests. Completing any 3 will progress the story, but 3 out of the 5 require a new befriend or straight up give you one. I decided to make the challenge fair by only doing one of the yokai quests, and I picked the QT quest, as it would allow us to fuse for the only time in this run and gives us a really good healer, which we desperately need. The Stooges are not cutting it. QT joins us and we name her Frisk. She wants us to fuse her, but we can only do that if we pick up a Snaggly in Southmond. And who knew this would be the most annoying part of the run? After many attempts, the only yokai that would approach us is Pettycake. And she did it 8 times.
No!
It took nearly 30 minutes, but we finally got a Snaggly and fused them to create Demandy, finishing the quest. I proceed to brutally annihilate Pettycake in the next quest for good measure.
Morning Frazzle! Is that enough for you, Pettycake? Is that enough for you? Jeez. Ugh.
After running Snob Eddie's errands and finally obtaining the bike, it was time to call it a day. Back to Haley's side of the story, where we take on our first request for the agency, which ends in us befriending Originion, who we named Chatnyan. Since we can train him up, Chatnyan will be an asset to the team. Isn't he beautiful? Their base skill literally makes his attacks miss, so we should train them up a little first so they can get a better skill. Goodbye, Wispy. It's Chatnyan's time to shine. Anyway, time to take on some more cases. Are you kidding me? We get caught fairly quickly this time and just barely make it to the safe spot before quickly grabbing the key and heading on out of there.
Oh, my heart is beating so fast right now.
Ooh. After some grinding, we head out to Springdale to put up advertisements for the USApyon Detective Agency. This is one of the most boring quests in the entire game, but we do pick up a Zappery in Shopper's Row in the process, and name him Zekinator, after this lovely man.
Behold the mighty Zeke von Gembu, bringer of chaos! mostly known as Zeke, and often addressed as the Zeekinator.
Looks like the posters paid off though, because we finally got some requests. While investigating the missing Soba, we run into our first Cyborg Y. While the music was sick, he was unfortunately not the real Cyborg Y. After avenging OJ Simp's death, it's time to look for Joshua, but not without Whisper's babbling for some reason. Investigating the Den of Jin gives us Diana Gates' Fancy That, and we can use it to save Joshua. While grinding through the Sunset Mall dungeon, we get a Chatterley and name her Yapper. Battling our way past mall security was a piece of cake. I mean, these guys are nerds, they don't have much strength. Anyway, time to beat up the most annoying boss in the game, Slackerjack. His ability to move and confuse yokai, along with his infuriating 8th note shield, makes him a pain to deal with, but thankfully we had no issues, and slayed him before calling it a night.
Let's go! Down with Slackerjack. Probably the worst boss in the story.
Buck finally entrusts us to see his secret hideout. So that means it's time for an adventure. Time for a couple of 12-year-olds to build a raft, which means it's off to Gloombell Forest. We encounter a celebrity on the way and name him Sheldon,
Cooper.
which leads us to our first of many fights against Agent X. With our two main attackers being resistant to fire, this fight was honestly a breeze. Garbo almost died, but that would have been fine with me. It is with the second phase that we are finally granted our Second Amendment rights.
Time, I'll wait.
What extreme futility!
Without Skidmark and Duolingo though, I don't know if we would have made it out unscathed.
Let's go! Executioner down!
We make our way back to the raft and head on our first adventure. One thing's for sure though, it definitely wasn't fruitless. And with that test run done, it's time to search for artifacts. This leads us to Steve Jaw's base, learning he was the one who made both the Yokai Watch Dream and the Yokai Blaster. Mystery solved! Now let's check in on Haley. The Meganyon quest. Oh, the Meganyon quest. Truder evolved into Retruder after the Meganyon fight, but we still couldn't manage to help him lose pounds, so it's time to take him to the gym, where all Infinite Inferno breaks loose. For some reason, Sergeant Burley forces us into a fight, where Salty Bacon kills our best team member on Haley's side, Spark. Rest in peace. This run will never be the same without you. See, I told you Salty Bacon was Garbo. During the C-rank quest, we befriended a Pandal and named him Walk from the first Nuzlocke, as well as trying to befriend a Scranny uptown, but ended up with a happy air we named L instead. Next, it's time to take on the Dr. Maddykins quest, where we get a new encounter at Nocturne Hospital. I know Schmoopy can spawn here, so it is my duty to get him. And after nearly a half an hour of grinding, we finally get a Schmoopy and name him after a friend of mine, Jade. It was getting late, so we'll save Maddykins for another day. We immediately start today by talking to Maddykins and getting him his precious Dr. Wappa, as well as retrieving his experiment turtles. He won't let the animals go though, so it's time to put up our dukes. Safe to say, after that fight, those turtles won't be messed with by Maddykins anytime soon.
This looks like one or two more hits. Great job, guys. Last Haley boss.
For the next quest, we need to pick up both a T-Rex and a Sing Kong. This should be easy with Jade by our side. We picked up T-Rex and named him Pringle, which didn't take long. But on the way to the mall at night, No. Oh. Ugh. This time we had to sneak up behind Gargaros and snatch the key, making this mission more risky than ever. We get cornered, but luckily there was a safe spot nearby that spawned Gargaros in the perfect spot for us to grab the key from him and run onto the exit. On the second attempt to go out at night, we get whisked into a Chaos March minigame, which I did not know was even a thing until now. On the third attempt to venture out at night though, we make it to the mall and befriend a Sing Kong relatively easily. His name is DK. Donkey Kong. We get Eddie as model rocket and check up on Nate, where it's time to investigate some crop circles on Meadowbrook Farm. On the way, we befriended a Snoddle we named Menace, and it turns out to investigate further, we should come out at night. Upon returning, it turns out that yokai also enjoy playing the worst sport. But that's not it for the alien talk, because there's some abductions going around town. After listening to all their stories, we put 2 and 2 together and find out that it was the fault of Mirapo and his friends, which finally gives us access to fast travel on Nate's side. Switching back to Haley's side gives us that same luxury. But all is lost when our efforts as a detective agency start falling apart. Not only did Eddie's mom send the model back to us, but Maddykins had lost his kids and all his hope, as well as Megan Yam not losing any weight. But this ends up working out in the end, because they all come together to form!
Changed.
It was nice to have this chapter end with a non-traditional boss, because then we didn't have to worry about losing any yokai. Anyway, this non-traditional boss goes down with the power of geekiness, ending our work for today, as well as Haley's side of the story in general. We need to take down Agent X on Nate's side one more time before our heroes can finally meet. We try to track down Steve Jobs, but find him gone. But we did have a lead that Diana Gately may have a fancy that can help us track down the UFO. With Diana Gately's insight, it's off to Pistachio Peak. Well, that's what I would say if we didn't have a watch upgrade to do. We take down all the yokai no problem. Except the Wright brothers kind of scared me with their water elemental. But we did it nonetheless. Arriving at Grumbler's Grotto, we immediately get harassed by Deadpool. Only he can simp for Little Charmer. Screw off, player. While down there, we pick up an unbelievable boy and name him Boss Baby. We make our way through the cave and battle Agent X once again, which was made easier by both putting Frisk out in the front row and our Second Amendment rights.
Let's go!
With that, both sides of the story finally get to merge for Chapter 6, where Nate and Haley both meet each other, as a result of being human envoys for the tour of Yoppel HQ. This merges our inventory and party, so it's time to start forming the Dream Team. We end up going with the following team: Musk, Jade, Frisk, Chatnyan, Hootie, and Zekinator. I changed Chatnyan from Shady to Slippery as well, so that we could use his homing shot in the Yokai Blaster.
We also get Koma-san auto-befriended to us and name him Bumpkin after the first Nuzlocke.
The fights in this chapter are low stakes, especially the boss Yoppelbot, so there wasn't much to worry about here.
If we get high right now, that'll be really funny.
Mark Orkerberg reveals that the whole tour was an experiment all along with Steve Jobs, giving both Haley, the Yokai Watch Dream, and us, the Yoppelbot, dismembered and reformed into a Roomba. That's enough for today, because next chapter is super long. Today starts with Haley warping over to BBQ and scramming to the circus. Time to go after her, I guess, but Buck doesn't truly trust her. He tasks her with finding a new copy of Fancy That to prove that she is worthy of being in the group. So off it is to Springdale. This leads to some more creepy gameplay, which... why level 5? This is torturous. Haley should not be working at a maid cafe with these weird older men, and if I could punch this guy right through the screen, I would. Anyway, showing God at Maid how to be a proper maid allowed her to bestow us with another copy of Fancy That. Point proven, Buck. Take this girl power and shove it. This one details the old mansion in East Pine being haunted by poltergeists, which we can't investigate until we upgrade our watch again, which becomes sort of a thing. Anyway, making it back to the mansion redirects us to the graveyard to find clues about how to get in, which takes way longer than it should have because I kept walking past the clues. When we get in though, it turns out to just be some kids and some more dancing yokai for some reason. I guess with that, it's time to take Haley home. But Buck has an emergency and he has something to tell us at the secret base. Our next mission, infiltrate Hazeltine Mansion. We end up falling underground and losing track of Buck. Befriending an El Gutzo we'll need later and naming him Nekomata. I know what y'all are thinking. Alright, I know what y'all are thinking. And yes, absolutely. Hootie also evolves into too much to take during this time. And after some annoying test with that turd-stained very good sir, we grab the last yokai we need for this mansion, Popsicle, and name them Jack. This allows us to move on to the main part of the mansion and fight Dr. Eraser. What do you expect me to say here? They call me the real yokai butler around these parts, cause I clean up. There was a lot more to this chapter, so I saved Betty Buys for the next day. We do some grinding today along with some puzzle solving, picking up an Apelican in the process we named Joker. Unfortunately though, today would see another devastating loss. During the fight with Betty Buys, we lose Chatnyan to a surprise beam. Whatever will we do without our only S rank? We'll win this for you, Chatnyan! Betty Buys is very scary after that, but we managed to pull through with no more losses. Ooh, okay, that was a very stressful battle. For good reason. We immediately replaced Chatnyan with Joker, spending a good chunk of the day grinding him up to the level of the rest of the team. In order to make it to Dukesville though for our next investigation, we need to grab the Hammerhead Hand from Maddykins, which leads us to another Cyborg Y fight with no luck. Maddykins lends us the Hammerhead Hand, which allows us to travel down the river and make our way to Pecan Port. While grinding in the prairie, we encounter a Flumpy, which we name Guac. With that, we save the rest of Dukesville for the next day. Today is filled with fruity milk, fighting ponies, and frowning mountains. Negative Buzz is required for the final key quest, so we pick one up and name him Guz Fring. With that out of the way, Agent X starts terrorizing Dukesville, and it's up to us to stop him. Despite the fact that the yokai heroes are in town and they should really be helping us, but whatever. Agent X summoned Jade during the battle, who died despite the fact that we targeted Agent X right away. How could he die from just the fire damage? That lays our most valued healer to rest, and our popularity skill gone. Agent X, you will pay for this if this is the last thing that I do. Guys, we're almost there. Down with Agent X. Oh my, that was... Ooh. We take him down and spend the rest of the day grinding before we head to New Yokai City, with DK being the replacement for Jade. During the grinding session, Hootie unfortunately perishes. Why did he have to die to grinding and not like a boss or something? Rest in peace, Hootie. In any case though, this brings Skidmark back to the team. That was painful, but we can't give up now. We're in the final 2 chapters. We also battle another Kyborg to no avail, while also heading back to Yapple to get our watch upgraded again. Yada yada, the test wasn't that bad. With that, ghoulies start wreaking havoc all over NYC. Luckily, the blasters come to help us out.
Kids, get out of here! There's your ride over there!
What the?
Quick, get him!
Sergeant Burley decides to join our team as Vic and help us in the fight against the ghoulies. We immediately put him on our team as a replacement for DK. Making our way through the key quests, we save the rematch bosses for last. Hoaxy Coaxy is a breeze, and Slackerjack is just as annoying as ever. The copious amounts of XP are appreciated though. With that all done, it's time to invade Bada-Bing Tower. Until Komajiro starts whining at us. He asks for us to help take his club back from this evil yokai, and we oblige. He also decides to join us, where we name him Graham, our last Autobot friend of the run. Rongo Swirl is toast. We just barge right in because we already have the A rank watch upgrade. This fight was stressful, but he goes down with no casualties. And this leaves tomorrow to be the perfect day to take on the next and final chapter.
Residents of the yokai world, this is true power. A power worthy of the name of Ghoul Father. Bada-Bing Tower!
Chapter 10, Chasing the Yokai Dream. I don't know what you think about this blunder, but the Ghoul Father is going down! We immediately head to Yapple HQ to make modifications to the Great Bite Shark, allowing him to penetrate the barrier to Bada-Bing Tower. But we can't do this without the help of a rocket scientist, as one of those doesn't work at Yapple. Wait! Dr. Hewley! A Kyborg disappoints us one last time before USApyon and Haley convince Dr. Hewley to help Mark Orkerberg and Steve Jaws develop the Great Bite Shark Air, which finally
You
gives
can
us
do
access
it.
to Bada-Bing
Believe in
Tower.
yourself. My hero.
All right.
You got it.
One of the most annoying parts of the game. Why would they ever decide to make progression in the story based on luck? I will never fully understand. I digress, though. Nobot gets bashed in, and so does everything else that stands in our way in the tower. Yeah, this is killing. This is killing. After hours of battling and spinning the wheel, we finally get to all the floors we need, and leave to make some final preparations before reaching the top. Agent X stops us short of the Ghoul Father's office to fight us one last time, and he doesn't take anyone from us. Let's go! Rest in the infinite inferno, you viper. We stopped to have a moment of silence for all those we had lost up to this point, hoping that there would be no more casualties. R.I.P. Zoomer, J and L, Spark, Chatnyan, Jade, and Hootie. Let this fight prove your deaths were not in vain. We start the fight against the Ghoulfather, and during it, I got so stressed that I forgot about the Ghoulfather's revenge. And as a result, I used Paws of Fury on the Ghoulies, which killed Skidmark. During the entire making of this script, I was beating myself up for this decision. I let it consume me for days on end. But what I've come to realize is that mistakes happen. I wasn't at the best point mentally, and while I was right to think that I shouldn't have let Skidmark die in that way, I can't let it get to me. I should press on in spite of his death. Make it worthwhile. I do find it funny, though, that in all 3 Nuzlocks I've done so far, I couldn't manage to keep Jibanyan alive for any of them. Which is luck that does not bode well for Yokai Watch 4's Nuzlocke. Phase 1 down, 5 yokai left, and Dawnspiracy is toast. As long as I didn't let Skidmark attack if Dawnspiracy forces him out, we'll be good. Dawnspiracy is crazy powerful, more so than I gave him credit for. However, with careful healing, liberal use of the Yokai Blaster, and a whole lot of split-second dodging, I present to you this.
Like 1 more attack, or 2 more attacks, or like 3 more attacks, or something. Just start hitting him. Quick, before this goes off. What was that? Was that Zekinator? I think that was Zekinator. I'll have to look on the playback, because I was like too stressed. I was too like focused in. Yeah. Looks like it. Yeah, it was Zekinator. Remember, chat. Time to spam. Bada-Bing! Bada-Bing! I give you permission to spam. And by spam, I mean like 3 messages max of Bada-Bing. Woo! That felt good. That felt awful. But that also felt good.
We return to the Earth as heroes with a team of 5. Congrats to Musk, Frisk, Zekinator, Vic, and Joker. Rest in peace, Skidmark. Died from my own incompetence. He joins his friends in the Divine Paradise, and hopefully he will be revived and stay alive for the Yokai Watch 4 Nuzlocke. I definitely underestimated how hard this Nuzlocke would be. I had so many more losses than with the previous Nuzlocks, but I still managed to get it on my first try. I would be open to a second attempt to try and improve, but definitely not anytime soon. I would like to thank everyone who joined a stream, watched the VOD, suggested a nickname, or is even watching right now. I'm glad y'all could be along for the journey. And I don't know if I'd have the stamina to do this purely on my own. Now, will I attempt a Yokai Watch 4 Nuzlocke? Sure, but I think this thrilling adventure has given me my fill on Nuzlocks for at least a little while. And that run will truly be hell. Thank you to all my lonely watchers out there for supporting me in this endeavor, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.